Computer. All right, so we're recording here for Saturday Night Live with special guest Michelle, and we've been waiting for this one for a while, Michelle. You've been hiding out on us. I know you've had a lot of things to settle and everything, and I says when you're ready, you'll come on board because people really need to hear your story. And maybe you want to talk maybe just a little bit about yourself, your history, and growing up a bit, and how you came to be into finding master fast and so on and so forth.
Well, we'll start at the very beginning. I was actually born to mature parents. They weren't young and they weren't healthy. My father was dying of bowel cancer. He found out when I was born. I was also raised in a position with two brothers that were very, very hungry boys, and they weren't quite the normal bunch. So they used to steal my food. So I was actually raised malnourished.
Oh, you mean you were actually really hungry?
Yes, yeah, I starved. When my stepfather moved in, my father died when I was 8. He had a lung cancer that was very rare, bowel cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But with his diet and my understanding now, I can totally understand why he died of bowel cancer. The diet was horrendous. So that compromised my growing up a bit. I ended up with scoliosis that got worse. I also had an accident as a little child. I fractured my skull and put my neck out as a baby. So growing up with that caused a lot of framework issues with my back as well, combined with the scoliosis, the neck out, my whole spine turned into like a snake's spine, a snake's back, it curved.
At what age was this?
I hadn't actually been named. Mum had a hard time picking a name with my father dying of cancer. So I was just over 1, I think. I was still a toddler, not walking properly, but crawling and climbing. I was a terrible climber, I was told. So that caused a lot of issues with my back. Being malnourished as a child, I also seemed to have developed organ issues. The doctors couldn't find a lot wrong with them other than they seemed to be, how was it explained to me? Immature. They hadn't developed properly. So I had a fair few health issues. I also went through some extremely traumatic experiences, so I ended up with some post-trauma type behaviour throughout my childhood and adulthood. So on top of that, with the organ failure, I'd get emotionally disturbed and I'd end up physically falling apart. I'd have organ failure and the doctors had rushed me into hospital. They couldn't find anything wrong with me, but my body would be shutting down. If it wasn't that the body was shutting down, I would have migraine headaches that would put me in hospital every 6 to 8 weeks. So there you go. I was in a bit of a mess. Pardon?
What age was that? With the headaches?
Up until now, up until about 2 years ago, the migraines would happen. I also developed epilepsy over the last 25 years. That was another mystery. The doctors weren't quite sure why, but within about 6 to 8 weeks, I discovered the calcium water that really put me on the right path to getting a healthy system, to putting my mind into the state where I wanted to push a healthier system. And I discovered the Master Fast, you guys, probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks after getting onto the Master Fast, my epilepsy stopped. I commented to my doctor at the time because I was still seeing him, and I said to him, I actually missed my epilepsy. It had become part of my world, and I enjoyed the blank emptiness that my mind would be in after the fits.
Wow.
And in a way, that was an escape from my emotional state that I was in, because I still was in a really severe state of depression. I craved death. It was part of my childhood issues. I used to crave that I hadn't been born. And then I learned after, when my father died, that there was death. And from 8 onwards, I craved death up until just after starting the Master Fast. The craving for death just vanished. It left. Not long after the epilepsy, the two of them seemed to be very connected to each other, the epilepsy and the craving for death. So that was a big change, and that was early in the piece. And that was one of the easiest changes that happened for me. One of the most painfulest experiences was when my hips went in. But having the scoliosis, it started to straighten, and that was there was less pain with the scoliosis straightening. And then I started to do a bit of weights to build some muscle tone, because I'd finished the first 108 days, and I thought I'll build myself up a bit.
You were on.
My hips clipped in.
You came to the page, I think, right from the start when we started almost.
Yes.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So my hips clicked in. Well, first of all, the hips became extremely painful. And I remember putting a post up asking for plasma love. I was in agony, and I'd also fallen over carrying a fridge.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So the agony was intense, and I think I was in agony for 3 or 4 days, really quivering in pain. And I laid on my back to do some back straightening type exercises that I had been taught to do. And I had a click, clack, and a real clang, loud one. I stood up straight and without any pain. And my back and my hips have been beautiful ever since.
Well,
a little bit extra gardening recently, and I'm surprised that my back's not hurting at all. It may have just reminded me a little bit that I was going through some detox while I was doing some gardening. There was a little bit of stiffness in there, but it was not painful compared to
you
the
shared
past.
you shared some photos. I think it was when you finished the first Master Fast, and then after you put on weight, and there was a huge difference in the shape of your spine, how it straightened out. It was still a little bit off. Has it improved any more since then?
Yeah, I'll have to take another photo for you and show you.
Wow.
The scoliosis side of it is still straightening more.
Wow. Excellent.
It was a severe scoliosis in the first place.
Oh, yeah, we could see in the photo.
I was crabbing around sideways. There was no sort of front walking for me. The other thing I was going to mention was it's been 3 years since I had a car accident that mashed my foot up into my weight-bearing bone on my ankle. I have a complete titanium frame in my right foot to a big chunk of titanium in the ankle. And before the Master Fast, obviously, I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of allergies, so I wouldn't take painkillers. The only thing I'd take for my foot was Panadol. And Panadol doesn't do a heck of a lot once you've taken it for 6 to 12 months. I'd spent 4 weeks in hospital, and they sent me home and sent a nurse out every day to dress the dressings on my foot because it turned into ulcers. The scar where they cut me on my foot turned into ulcers. They didn't want me to let me out of hospital and let me come home because they were really worried I was going to lose my foot. That was the biggest issue. Is there was no bones left in it. It was just minced meat. I'd actually walked on my foot. My friend that I'd picked up from the mental ward, he'd grabbed the steering wheel when we were driving home, and he was still stuck in the car, and it was upside down, and he was screaming, and it was dark, and it was popping and hissing and everything with the car accident and the engine upside down. So I just ran around the car and pushed his body up with my weight to get his seatbelt to let him out, and that's what totally minced my foot. I should have a lot of pain by the sounds of other people that have had this similar sort of operation, but I really don't have any. I have to teach myself to use my to lead with my left foot when I'm gardening now, because after sort of nearly 50 years, I'm 50 in October. So for nearly 50 years worth of gardening using my right foot, I'm now learning to use my left foot instead of my right, because it doesn't like me gardening. Though I have noticed that the more I use it, the more it becomes flexible. So the discomfort in it is only tearing scar tissue and adhesions and letting the whole thing become a lot more looser. So there's a little bit of a play between the pain and the pleasure there in the foot. I've got to cause it to flex over the spade a bit, I suppose. Though I am trying to teach myself to use left. What else do I talk about?
You mentioned to me that you had a house invasion.
Yes, this was probably about 4 years ago. I was staying at a friend's place. I had helped him through cancer, and his friends and family were an unusual family. They were involved in the criminal world, and there was an issue where I may have been able to claim for spouse's rights, I suppose. I had lived with him and cared for him for 10 years through cancer treatment, and he was going to die. He was dying. He'd actually survived the cancer treatment by 8 years, but he had mistreated himself and was dying of physical abuse. He'd abused himself. And how do I say this? There was some problems with me living in the house, with me caring for him, with the idea that I might not just quietly walk away when he died, because there was inheritances and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, there was an attack on me. I woke up with a man on my back holding my face down in bed, and he wouldn't let me breathe. He definitely had no idea of the strength of me. I mightn't be big, but I'm very strong. And I actually got up with him on my back. But that sort of put me into another position where I was sort of up, and he picked up his baseball bat and started to hit me with it. So I copped a couple of good hits on the head, and he ordered me to sit down on the bed so that he could pull ties on my hands, and then he dragged me through the house, and in the hallway he hit me again to get me to sit down so that he could put some on my feet. And then he tried to knock me out with the baseball bat, but it just didn't work. He could have knocked me out. I heard my sinuses fracture when he hit me, and all I could do was look into his eyes and just project love to him, that he didn't need to do what he was doing. He went outside, and I just started bashing on. I had helped Chantel, Trevor's daughter. I had helped raise her over the 10 years. She was only about 10 when I moved in, and her father was dying of cancer. So, yeah, she had a girlfriend staying at the night, and I thought if I could get into the bedroom with her, he'd leave me alone. Anyway, he came back, hit me again one more time. He put every bit of effort that he had in it, and he knocked me over but didn't knock me out. And then he went back outside. You could hear him talking to someone outside. He came back in, and I was smashing on Channy's door, and he just looked at me, shook his head from the hallway, and Channy opened the door, and I've just got in to sort of crawled with my hands and my feet being tied, crawled in through the doorway and pushed the door shut and sat behind the door. I didn't know what to do from there onwards. I just wanted to get into a room where there was other people. I felt that he wouldn't kill me in front of somebody else. That was about it. We didn't see him again. They left. It took us a while before I was comfortable enough to come out and ring the police, and they came, and all that sort of stuff went on. I did end up with some fractures, and through the master fast, I do feel that it's healed a tremendous amount of the sinus and the fracture problems that I used to have from that. But I think most of all, the master fast has given me an ability to put it behind me. It's not the first attack that I've had at night. As a child, I used to be attacked in my bed while I was asleep. And as an adult, I had been, from an ex-husband, put through a situation where he was going to murder my children in front of me and me. He was mad, and he thought that he was going to get into heaven with a good wife. And that was the only reason he was going to do a pact suicide murder. And also he didn't believe that I was allowed to be with anybody but him. He really was mad. When they were looking for Ivan Milat, the backpack murderer here in Australia, they researched into Uva. They thought that he was actually the backpack murderer. That was his profile. So we lived with him for about 6 years, my kids and I, in the bush. He wouldn't let us out if we had bruises or anything like that. We weren't allowed near phones. We were kept pretty dangerously. So the whole environment in my life was pretty intense. That was why I was suicidal and craved death. I could never have committed suicide because my kids, they are normal 31 and 30-year-old happy children, and they couldn't have been with a mother that had killed herself out of her own pain. And so thankfully that I hadn't, because through the master fast, I don't have that pain anymore. I do have the memory, and it's not a pleasant memory. I don't like sharing the memories because I know that they hurt. If they hurt me, they're going to hurt anyone with some sort of compassion. So I usually don't share. But there is a way to heal the intense, deep-rooted pain that we do get through some of the nastiest life experiences that we've been through. And this is it. You can't eat your way to being a happier person. You've actually got to fast it. It's the way to fast your way to being happy. The past doesn't go away, but you get to see it in a different light. I now look back at my past, and I'm grateful for every part of it, even the most painful and horrible things that have happened to me, because it's made me for who I am now. And I know I'm a strong and a powerful person. I've been through a lot, and I know I can help people. And now that we've got you, Gino, then we know that you know what we need to do to get better. That's it. All we got to do is stick to the protocol, love each other with unbelievable family love, like brothers and sisters, and we'll get there. We're getting there. And like, I'm always going to be here available to help anyone with any issues, especially if you've been through something I've been through. If anyone's related to something like that and they do feel suicidal or painful from the past, we're all here, and especially me, if you want to reach out to me, I'm here. And we just got to stick to the protocol. We fast, we keep the family support, and we get through. Look at me. I'm 2 years now down the track of being a member of the Master Fast family. And there's no way I'd want it any other way.
Let's back up a little bit. When your first 108 days, do you remember when you started that? What month it was?
It was Christmas time.
Oh, so it was 2015. Okay.
Both times that I've done it have been from Christmas to Easter.
Oh, okay.
It was just, to me, it's a special time of the year to me. From Christmas is the end of the year, and from Easter is the beginning of the year. So I like to fast the end. We've got the Chinese New Year, when Pisces and Aries meet, to me is a special time, because we have a hovering in the middle of nowhere between the foot and the head. And to me, that's an ending and a joining, and it's a special time. And I feel that same with the moon phases, these special times have got a little oomph, a little extra push to get us to where we want to go. If we've got intent and desire, and we bring every element together that we can, and I see astrologically, I love to play and bring those elements down into what we're doing too. So Easter, between Christmas and Easter was my fasting time, and I'll do another one next year. It just, to me, it seems to be the starting end, the ending starting, but starting ending point for me. I love doing things back to front.
So okay, we'll back up. So I remember, like, when you weren't sharing much. It was like,
no, I didn't the first time because of my depression and my shyness. I was tremendously shy because of the stuff that had happened as a child.
Right. Yeah. You PM'd me a bit here and there, and then all of a sudden, you started giving me more information. But then you finished your 108, and you were having challenges putting on weight, because you've lost a lot of weight on your first one.
Okay, well, we'll step back just a touch before I actually went on to the Master Fast. I was attempting to do something about my diet. I discovered, I had been diagnosed with having irritable bowel syndrome a long, long time ago. And I discovered that starch was what was causing the irritable bowel. I cut starch out of my diet, and I found I would only drink milk. I lived on dairy. I'd have the hospital Ensure to put on weight. I'd put 2 to 3 teaspoonfuls of powdered milk in every cup of tea, and I probably went through 4 to 5 boxes of 50 tea bags a week.
Wow.
I lived on tea from the time I got out of bed to the time I went to sleep. I'd easily have 10 to 20 cups of tea a day. It was more like 15 to 20 cups of tea a day. But tea was my meal. I'd make 2 cups of tea up with an extra couple of teaspoons of powdered milk because I was hungry. If I ate, it wouldn't work. My digestion didn't work. But it would work on meat and it would work on milk. I discovered since that when you drink milk, you have a compromised digestive system. It doesn't digest fruit and vegetables very well, but it seems to deal with meat. So meat and dairy eating seems to go hand in hand. I wanted to get off dairy. I knew that I needed to grow my foot properly before I started the Master Fast. My first birthday present after crushing my foot was a retreat to a raw eating group. He wasn't actually having a group on at the time, but he took me as a one-off person to go and stay with him for a week and learn to eat raw foods, which didn't work real well for me, but I tried it really well. I was craving the milk really badly, but I sort of did the first couple of weeks without the powdered milk and was trying to do the fruit. I did see the health improvement, but it was hard. I wasn't getting there very quickly, and I reverted back to the powdered milk to actually gain a bit of weight. I was hovering on nothing at all. I'd lost the weight when I went off the powdered milk because I wasn't digesting the fruit, and there was no cooked vegetables or anything, so I was getting very little out of it with my compromised digestion. So I was really skinny when I first started my first fast. It was out of desperation to gain weight, to be able to digest the foods that we needed to eat. I couldn't just keep going on the raw food and not go back to the powdered milk the way I was going. So yeah, I was super skinny and living on powdered milk before the master fast. The master fast was easy because I wasn't eating beforehand much. My routine for 10 years was just drinking milk. That was my thing. So I went from just drinking milk to doing grape juice and lemon, and it really was, it suited me beautifully. The hardest part was actually going from the end of the fast to the fruit, where I hadn't actually been eating a lot of solids for years and years and years. The doctor had put me on a fiber plus this stuff. The doctor put me on this stuff, and that with powdered milk was my sustenance. That made sure that I'd go to the toilet. So I went from that to the protocol of the master fast with the kidney tea and the juice and the pudding. That worked really well for the fast. And then I went to go to eat, and my body's gone, no, I don't really want to eat. You didn't eat in the first place, so why should you eat now? So I pushed myself a bit harder, a bit further, and I think I didn't really start gaining weight until around about my birthday, springtime. So I finished, it took about 6 months more after the fast, the first fast, for me to actually start gaining weight, for my digestion to kick in. And it kicked in really quickly. All of a sudden, I think within 6 weeks, I'd gained like 5 kilos. And I looked tremendous. I felt tremendous. It was a long road of extremely skinny before I gained, but like, as I said, I was super skinny beforehand. I'd probably been extremely skinny for a year, because it was my birthday the year beforehand that I'd started the raw food diet and lost the weight straight away that I had been carrying on the powdered milk. And it wasn't until about my birthday the next year, after I'd done the master fast, that everything kicked in and it all started to work for me.
Do you remember what weight you started the first master fast and what you weighed when you ended it?
The first master fast I started, I think I was only just 40 kilos.
Wow.
I was very skinny. There was nothing much of me back then. I dropped down to, I think it was 35 kilos.
Yep.
And then picked back up. When I did pick up, I picked up really quickly, and I think I went up to about 45, 30. At the moment, it's midwinter here, and I do fast hard. My weight's gone back down to about 44, but I haven't lost my muscle tone. Throughout my second master fast, I decided I was going to do the weights all the way through it. And I actually gained muscle while I fasted.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't gain physical weight. I noticed there was still a little bit of weight loss, though there's there's places of my body that have changed shape too. With that second fast, my kidneys decided to deal with the excess sodium that my body seemed to have picked up. I had carried fluid around my feet and my ankles throughout my entire adult life. From a young girl, in maturing, my legs started to swell. And that was just part of life. I had swelling of my legs. And during the second 108-day fast, the swelling went down on my legs, and they just went and stayed down. Before they went, I had some extreme swelling. I can remember posting that I was swollen, my legs were swollen right up to my bum. There was tremendous discomfort in them, and they really had. The edema in my legs had turned them into elephant feet right up to my rear end. I was so swollen. I could feel the swelling in the calf muscles up high. And about a week later, everything went away, all the swelling. So I'd imagine there's got to be a kilo in each leg full of extra water.
Oh yeah.
And that swelling has not returned.
What's your height?
5'4".
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah, the swelling. Basically, you're saying you had a lifetime issue, and you've solved the issue now with 2 fasts.
On the second fast, yeah. Throughout my life, the doctors used to always prescribe me diuretics, but I was told they can do a lot of harm to your heart in the long run. So there was a catch-20, whether I take the diuretics or whether I sort of consider the damage that they could be doing in the long run. But yeah, that's the way. You've got to persevere. Our first 108-day fast, especially if you're mature, like I'm nearly 50 now. We've got a lot of stuff in our system. We've got a lot of garbage. So it takes longer than 108 days of emptying the garbage bins to actually get to the system's root cause and start to recover.
What was your dry fasting schedule on your first 108 days and on your second? And did you maintain it while you're eating in between?
It's dry fast schedule as in I'm a nocturnal. This is my very awkward morning. I sleep through the day and I usually stay up all night long. I have actually talked with you about whether or not that's an emotional thing because of my attack in the past, or whether or not that's just a state of being. I've come up with the idea that it is a state of being because my son is nocturnal and he's never had anything happen to him. And I find when the sun goes down, I get this charge. It's like I wake up, and through the daytime I'm flat, and it's not until the sunset. And I find also when the sun rises and I hear the first morning call of the birds, it's like that's my calling to go to bed. It's just the way it is. So I'm back to front with I start to do all my breaking of my fast when the sun sets. During the fast, I was doing my breaking the fast to sunsets and drinking through the evenings, through the nights. When I eat through the day, when I was in the eating section of sort of on the hybrid, because I've never not been on master fast or hybrid fast. From the time I started to when I felt what it was doing for me, I have never stopped. I fast every day. It's just my way. I now find it very hard to drink anything through the daytime. When the sun's up, I can't drink. I find it awkward. It's just, and also my stomach doesn't like it. It does not like me drinking out of my drinking window. And actually my stomach doesn't like me starting on drinking. It likes fruit these days when I'm on hybrid, I do more fruit than drinking. I'll drink a glass or two of grape juice on the hybrid, but I won't want that until the end of my eating bracket or eating window. But yeah, I pretty well follow the protocol to the T. I find everything's just planned out so easily for you. And it becomes habit really quickly. If you don't question yourself, you just go through it. Within the first couple of weeks of doing the first master fast, it became a habit not to drink. And I never drank water before in the first place, so giving up drinking water wasn't an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Giving up drinking lots of tea was. And I remember going through a phase in the end of the first one when I didn't want to drink the juice anymore. I just lost taste. And I just wanted the tea for a while. And we did that. I just did tea for a couple of days and then got the juice back in. But to me, that was more an emotional thing. With my background, I don't emotionally eat. I emotionally look for a cup of tea. And because I no longer drink tea and milk, I can't emotionally do it anymore. It's just not there. If I want to have an emotional anything, I have myself a kidney tea, which is the best thing I can do for myself.
Exactly.
It's that hot reminder of a hot drink. That's the only thing that I can now go back to, which I think is a really good thing. If you can remove yourself from any of the old practices that were negative, replace them with something that's really, really super positive, rather than feel like you're deprived and you're taking it away altogether. Replace it with the better things in life.
That's the simple way.
Pardon?
That's the simple way. Replace.
Yeah, I like it. I like making life easy. It's hard to go without, and we can emotionally challenge ourselves, or we can actually emotionally ease ourselves into things. And I like the gentle way. I really do like it gently. Sometimes we got to be hard, and when it comes to dry fasting, that's when we're not gentle. It's not gentle. And that's when we really got to we've got to test ourselves. We've got to push ourselves. We've got to go to the uncomfort zone and then hang out there. And then we've got to push ourselves to the extremely uncomfortable zone and hang there for a while. And then we've got to go to the extremely stupidly uncomfortable zone where we think this is like ridiculous. And then we've got to feel comfortable in that too. And when we can feel comfortable in the worst situation that we think we can get ourselves in, and something I've discovered is, like, I've only done 6 days dry, but we don't die. It's amazing. We don't die. And when we discover that, there's just this unbelievable freedom in our mind that it breaks us free. We don't die when we don't eat and we don't drink. It's awesome. And we heal. That's the most wildest part about it. We actually get better. Against all other directions of eat this and drink that to get better, the longer we go without anything at all, the better and faster we recover.
So your daily dries, your weekly dry, your monthly dry, your schedule there. And I think you made your own tinctures for your
Yeah, I made my own tinctures for the first fasts. But I've ordered tinctures this time because I really don't want to make my own this time. I really want to use yours, Juno. I have my soul is calling me to use your tinctures. I know mine have been okay, but I want to step it up a notch. And I have a psychic side to me, and my psychic side have been calling and saying, you need to get onto Gino's, you need to get onto his tinctures. They are masters that are putting them together, and you're just practicing. It's not my field, making tinctures. I know we all can, and if we have to because of money or other situations at the time, they are better than none. We need to have that support. We need the body, the kidneys, the organs, everything. Every cell in our body needs the tincture support.
They
But
are.
to make your own, you're getting something that's going to help. But to use somebody's that's been put together, that is their field, they're masters in it, you're going to get a much better result. So yeah, my psychic side of me just kept telling me this and telling me this throughout this last fast. So I'm on to them now.
Yeah, it's we keep getting that same question. Do I need to use the tinctures? And yeah, it's part of the system, and they're essential, just like every single part is. Everything is essential. There's, I don't know, we get that question probably every week.
Well, I remember in the beginning, I was afraid of the psyllium husks, literally terrified. I used to have anxiety attacks walking into a kitchen. To open a fridge to me would put me into a real state of anxiety. Like I lived on anxiety. My nervous system was shot. If I heard a German accent when I was shopping, because my ex was German, I would suddenly go blank. I would walk away from the shopping trolley. I would get faster and faster until I got to the car. My hands would be sweating and shaking. I'd find it nearly impossible to get the key out of my bag. And I would rush home. And I'd sit at home for hours just shaking. And all that had happened is I'd hear a German voice. That's how bad my anxiety used to be.
Wow.
So I'd walk into the kitchen to eat because I thought that I should eat. And as soon as I arrived at the kitchen, my anxiety would start, my stomach would crush, my chest would crush, I couldn't breathe. To open the fridge would put me into a real state. And that was because I was afraid of the irritable bowel syndrome. I was afraid of putting something in my mouth that was going to hurt me. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was hurting me. With the Master Fast, there's no foods that hurt you. As soon as I went on to the Master Fast, my irritable bowel vanished. I had no issues. I have tried, as Gina knows, to eat sweet potato, and no, I can't. It still brings the same issue back. But I no longer have the anxiety that entering the kitchen. Like I actually knew when I was having the sweet potato that it could flare something up, but it didn't create an anxiety. When it did flare it up, at first I thought, no, I'm all right, because the first 2 days I was okay. It didn't flare it up, but then it did. I can only suggest that anyone else that's got irritable bowel, avoid starch after your Master Fast. Sweet potatoes are still out for me, but I can do the carrots and I can do the beetroots. But the potato starches are no good for us. But anyone with irritable bowel syndrome, honestly, this Master Fast is perfect for us. It totally heals that. What else was there that I was going to say about that? I can't think of it. Oh, the real major benefit of the finishing the second Master Fast was I'd been through 2 full Master Fasts then, and I had noticed through the second one my body would flare up as an issue was being dealt with. So I'd noticed, like, I'd had a couple of sunspots, real big, scaly, hard sunspots that I had on my face. My whole family's been getting distorted by having them cut out these days. And I'd reached 50, and yeah, being in Australia, being a redhead and living on the back of a horse, I had a tremendous amount of sun. The spots would blister. and it like literally blister up as massive, big, weeping, blistering, oozing sores, and then they healed totally. I've had every one of the, and I'm pointing out here, but every spot on my face has completely cleared up that were scaly sunspots on the second master fast. But something that I sort of emotionally accepted was we have to walk our dis-ease out the door. We don't seem to suffer because when we get sick. We're putting in all the bad foods and we're putting in all the bad behaviours, and it just seems to get heavier and heavier and heavier on us, but we don't actually start to physically suffer. When we're in a state of extreme suffering and we've changed it, it's no longer a crisis, it's just a healing reaction, because it's really all it is, just a healing reaction, is that the pain would rise itself, the issue would become intense as I was healing it. If it was an emotional thing or a physical thing, both of them would have to flare up and be a big time emotional issue or a big time physical pain. And it felt like every time they flared up, I actually felt in the end I was celebrating them, like, oh, wow, I'm crying, I'm depressed. This issue, this thing that's coming to my mind, this memory is healing. And I could see myself bringing it to the door and then releasing it from myself. And I've noticed that each time something has come up, and it's not like I can bring them up, they come up on their own, whichever part being a physical pain or an emotional issue. It comes up on its own. It says, here I am, I'm a pain or I'm a suffering, and I have to live it. It's 2 or 3 days. For some reason, I'll go through my memory of where it occurred, my memory of physically how it developed, or my memory of emotionally how it's developed, and then an acceptance and a release as it's coming out. And it feels to me very much like if it's my soul has gathered up this issue and it's walking it out the door. And when it shuts the door behind it, it's like, well, that's it, it's finished, it's cleared out, it's no longer part of my entity. And I no longer suffer those things. It's throughout all the healing practice and modems that we've ever been taught or has ever been described to us, I have never found anything that actually walks the disease out the door and shuts the door behind it. We can always open the door and let the diseases go back in. It's our choice. I think the door is our mouth and our ears and our eyes. It feels to me like it comes out those holes. And if we allow ourselves to hear things, see things, and consume things that we're not meant to be, we're going to let disease back in.
Did you give it a boot on the way out?
Pardon?
Did you give it a nice boot on the way out?
A gentle shove. Yeah, get away from the door. Don't ever come back. As I said to you the other day, Gino, I don't need to put myself through suffering that's avoidable. And when we've walked a dis-ease out the door, we know how we got it. We're fully aware of why we had it, and we're fully aware of how to get it back. That I love about the Master Fast. It's helping me personally see how these imbalances and diseases developed and how to prevent them from redeveloping. Yeah. To be able to prevent a disease is as important as being able to heal them. We haven't been taught either the prevention of disease or the healing of disease. And this is where your systems showing us the healing of disease and pointing out with the post-master fast the prevention of disease. I see the master fast as the healing of disease and the post-master fast as the prevention of disease. Though it's the post, we have to get rid of our diseases, and then we have to stick to keeping them out the door and not slipping back. Comfort zones and habits. It's one of our biggest issues as being humans. We're habitual. It helps us in a lot of ways, but it also hinders us in a tremendous amount of ways. And our habitual childhood practices have to be left in the past.
I also remember you mentioning something, some cancer lesions on your skin or something, or was it you? Or
yeah, I have had quite a few cancer lesions that just disappeared.
is that the ones you're talking about?
Yeah, the ones in my face. I've still got a reasonable sized one on my hand. I don't know if you can see that. I'll pop a bit of light on there. No, light globe's not in. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. Is it too much light now? Is
the little white
there.
spot?
Yeah,
yeah,
that spot there.
That's the last
okay,
one?
now that's the last one, but chunky like that, was on my face. I had, the biggest one was here, and I had quite a few of them, big scaly chunks. I was putting them off because I didn't want to look like my brothers and my mother. When the doctors cut them out, they pull it together and your face changes shape. You end up distorted. And I just didn't want to go that fat. I didn't want the distorted face. Yeah, they're gone. The face is normal. The skin is normal. Look, I'll give you a close-up of the skin on my face. It's pretty good. The forehead, there's none on the forehead now. My nose is pretty good. The chin had a lot of glass in it from a car accident.
Is that a piercing?
But, yes, I have a little piercing. A little bit of bling. But yeah, the skin cancers just cleared on their own. Now, here's one I was thinking I'll put in the comments. Do we have a comments below this one?
On this Zoom, yeah, there is.
Yeah, okay, I'll put a picture up, but I wanted to show you my arm. See there? The bit that I'm wanting you to look at is, gee, I can hardly see it now, is that bit right there. Okay, take note, that little area there.
I don't see it.
I have a picture that I'll put on the comments of that about a week ago, and it was flared up quite red and inflamed. That's how I found my cancers are going. They flare up, they become inflamed, they'll become extremely itchy, sometimes burn like they were a burn. They actually feel like they've been burnt. They're either itchy or burnt or both, itchy and burnt. And then that'll weep sometimes. Well, usually it'll have a little bit of a weeping sensation. It'll flake off and then vanish, go away, altogether healed from the inside out. The cancer will flake off the surface, and there's just normal, fresh, happy skin that comes out from underneath. So if you're on the master fast and you've got a scaly patch of skin you think is a sun cancer, don't panic. If it flares up really bright and red and itchy, celebrate, it's leaving. I've now gone through dozens of them. There was quite a lot on my face. It seems to have taken longer for them to leave my hands than it has to leave my face. My hands and my arms, being on the back of a horse for a lot of my childhood in the midday sun, my face and my hands copped the most sunlight, so I was covered in them. But yeah, cancer's not an issue. We can fix that without a problem. We just need to stick to the protocol, stay positive, and stay in contact with the Masters Fast family. I honestly feel that is one of the most important things, to give and receive love. When we're sharing on the board and we're letting people know how we're going, and we're letting people know that we understand where they're going and how they're going, that support it's just so good. When you're going through a hard time and you look and someone's sort of posted a comment on your post that they love you, or even if they just send you a heart, it makes you feel better. And when you're feeling crook, that's all you need. You just need someone to love you, and it makes you feel better. Whether it be a physical crook or an emotional crook, that's what we're here for. The Master Fast family is here for love and support. And through love, support, and correct conduct, being the right food and behaviour, we'll come good. We do. We come good.
You got that sign behind you, LOVE.
Yes. It's pretty important, that one. I grew up with a very small amount, and I think that's something we all do. We all create that we didn't have when we were young and try and feed it to everyone. And there's also another little character I'll have to introduce to everyone. Hey, little man.
Oh, Mr. Frog. There he is.
Here's my friend. Come on, Chip.
He's a big guy.
Hasn't he gotten big now? Now, I can tell you from his point of view, diet is unbelievably important. The reason he's with me is because he got, as a little baby frog, over a year ago, Christmas time year before last. So he got into the ferret cage and the 6 ferrets tried to pull him apart. They had bitten through one of his eyes, and you're turning the wrong way, little man. They had stretched him. There's 6 ferrets, so they all had a mouthful of him, and water. He had ended up in a pretty bad state. Anyway, I didn't think he was going to survive.
He looks like
I got him off the ferrets.
He looks like the Incredible Hulk. He's built.
I brought him inside and put him in a little plastic container, one of those ones that you bring your salad home from town in, and put him on top of the fish tank. And about an hour later, I noticed that the container was empty. And then I noticed he was sitting on my bench. He'd climbed up onto the bench. He was in a really bad state. They'd stretched the skin off of his leg and totally degloved one of his legs. They'd put holes all through him. They'd totally crushed one of his eyes, and one of them bit through the side of his tummy.
My goodness.
He didn't move for a week. He just sat there. I found a bug, and the first day I fed him a bug, he screamed when he jumped out to eat the bug. The movement must have hurt, and he screamed in pain. But that was the beginning of our friendship, and he stayed. He has been out a couple of times. When we get big rains, he goes outside. I do worry about him, but like a teenager, he comes home when he's hungry. So yeah, the issue with diet, when I first started feeding him, I found it hard to find bugs. So I thought, well, I'm feeding everything chicken. So I fed him a bit of chicken meat because he'd eat anything that I offered him. Well, I nearly killed him. The smell was unbelievable. He smelt rotten. His skin smelt, and his diarrhea was horrible. Well, then I thought to myself, okay, maybe he should have bugs, and I can't find bugs. So I thought a prawn was a bug a bug from the ocean. So I'll try him on a prawn. Well, that's when he nearly died. that was his sickest time. I thought I'd killed him. He was very, very, very sick. The diarrhea was unbelievable, and he was off colour for probably about a week. Now he gets nothing but bugs. If I can't find bugs, I don't feed him. He can't have anything but bugs. Since I discovered that we can't have anything but bugs, we have nothing but been a very happy and chubby boy. I had to cut back on the amount I fed him for a bit. He got a bit too fat. I made him a tank that he could help himself, but he doesn't like that. He likes me hand feeding him.
He also goes on dry fast on his own, doesn't he?
The longest he dry fasted this year, and I think that maybe because he was a mature adult now, as he went 3 solid weeks. So he's done more than me. He went 3 solid weeks, no food, no water. Being nocturnal, I know whether he goes to water or not because I can hear him clamoring through my sink. And I always, after he's been in the water, he lives in the calcium water I developed. And after he has been in his calcium water, I empty, wash his pond and refresh it every time, which gives me an idea of when he's been in it because the water level goes down. It overflows. And this winter, watching to check to see whether or not he was dry fasting or slipping in for a quick dip while I wasn't watching, he didn't. He stayed completely out of the water. Hello, little man.
So his eye pretty much grew back, right?
It did grow back, and the iris seemed to have developed a bit, but he does have a cloud in the eye. I do think he can see through it because he now looks at me directly, where before he used to turn his head and look one way. So I think he's seeing light through it, and he might be able to see a bit through it. But he's a little bit lazy.
It looks like he's understanding what we're talking about.
I do believe he does. He did a healing dance on me once, which was unbelievable, and his routine was so planned. Humans don't seem to understand that animals are actually more clued in and more connected, and in my opinion, more intelligent than we are. We're the infants of evolution. They're not. They've been here a long time. Whether it be evolution or creation, however it be that we were formed here, we are still trying to find our way. Look at us. We're obviously not totally on cue. There's too many of us that are lost. There's too much suffering and disease. And in the wildlife, there's no suffering and disease. They live happy and healthy until they die. They're more intelligent than us. They're more clued on. The fact that we don't understand them, I think, is what makes us think that they're not as intelligent as us. But if you can psychically hook up to an animal, you're quite amazed on its abilities. This little boy here actually hunts through my eyes and hands. I was never real quick at eye-hand games. I was not one into playing games as a kid. Having my neck out and everything, my eye-hand coordination was really bad. To catch a bug is not easy. When you see a grasshopper, they're green, they're in the grass, and when they jump, they're so fast. But from the time that I found that he came in the house and started living with me, I can find bugs, and really easily. And it's not like I'm looking for them. He's finding bugs through me. It's like his soul searches for bugs when I'm in the garden. If I'm in the garden and a bug jumps, he sees it. It's not me. I'm not looking for him. But he gets a feed because there's a bug out there. It's quite amazing. the connection you can have with animals when you cease to believe that they're anything like us, and you accept that they're a lot more connected and a lot more spiritual than what we are, and that if we can hook up with them, we'll go a lot further than we are in this planetary world at the moment. We're just so material. That's about the only thing I can come up with.
You've been working with animals for a while, right?
Yeah, they've been drawn to me all my life. I did do 12 years working with homeopathy and animals in the mountains. When I left my ex-husband, the one that was going to kill me, he threatened my children. So I put my children into a safe house and I hid. He had to find my children. The police were watching the kids too. So anytime he was hanging around there, they'd chase him off. But he had to get my kids, and then he had to find me in the bush. So I put 12 hours between my children and me and put them in a safe place. And then I went and hid in the bush. So to do something, I wanted to always wanting to understand why humans suffer and domestic animals suffer, but wild animals didn't suffer. I wanted to understand that. While I was hiding out in the bush, I bought myself a couple of Anglo-Nubian goats, which are their birth rate, their birth survival rate was around about 50%, which is pretty poor. But the Anglo-Nubian goat was one of the first domesticated goat animals by the human race, which made me feel that it would probably have developed as many of our imbalances and diseases, because that's why they've got them. We gave them to them by taking them out of their natural native environment. In the 12 years, I researched with homeopathy and diet and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I brought that 50% birth rate up to about a 95% birth rate. I was not losing many at all. I personally do feel that, well, I was comfortable with allowing death of the offspring that were physically mutated. So I did have some that would die in the end. I did discover that I could prevent death even in them, but their life wasn't positive. It wasn't a happy life. And with an animal that has to live in the wild or with its parents, if it's physically mutated, it's best to allow it to pass at birth. The way I feel, it had a tremendous life in the womb. If it didn't get to live past the womb for long, it's not that it didn't get loved and it didn't have a life. It had a short life that was in a very protected environment. Oh, but you're getting a bit personal.
Was it the story about the ferret that you brought back to life recently, a few months back?
Yeah, last summer. My ferrets, we're in a very hot climate here, and they're from the cold climate. They're not meant to be in Australia. And young Einstein, they don't handle heat. They'll go into a coma and die. And we found during the heat wave, she had fallen asleep and gone into the coma in the sun, in a log in the sun. So by midday, she was cooked, really, really cooked. And we found her and pulled her out, but she had actually had her eyes had dried down a bit. Yeah, I didn't want to accept that she would die. She was young, and I do realize we are spirit beings in physical form. We are first in the power of the spirit, not first in the power of the physical form. So I saw that she didn't have a physical reason not to be able to come back to life other than she had overheated, and that I could actually support her recovery from the overheating. So I called her spirit back to her body, and it came. She was touch and go for 2 weeks. We had to keep her cool because the overheating then it initially dropped her body into the death zone. It overwhelms the organs. So we had to support the system while the organs recovered from the overheating. But yeah, she's still alive and she's very, very happy, little Einstein. And we've bought a massive big air conditioner so that that doesn't happen again this summer. But yeah, we can actually, this is something that we have to discover, I suppose, for ourselves, and dry fasting will do that. We don't die that easy. Death is not an easy thing.
What other animals do you have personally?
We have a dingo, a pure dingo. He's a classy piece of goods. A mini foxy, smooth little tiny thing, and a Great Dane hunting dog. They're a classic bunch of dogs.
Dingo's a wild dog, right?
Yes. Bronson was found in the back of a car up in the mountains. They were gathering up the cars, clearing an old property out and crushing the cars, and they heard pups in the back of the car. There's not many old logs, hollow logs left anymore, so the dingoes will find anything to have their babies in. He's a gorgeous little piece with all these wild tendencies. And he's also shown me a lot about the diet of animals, and the fact that they are happy to fast. Animals quite are happy to fast. I find they're happier the day after a fast. And Bronson's the one that seems to accept the fasting a lot easier. Genetically, he wasn't told to front up to a food bowl 3 times a day. And yeah, he... Go back down here. I'll just put the frog away.
Take over there, bub.
And we've got the 6 ferrets. And recently I've been given a little scaly-breasted lorikeet for my birthday. So we have a little baby bird. I also have an aviary full of cockatiels. That I have healed there's a beacon feather disease that the birds can get here in Australia, and my cockatiels had it. It comes from domestic birds, but we also have it in our wild birds now. They're born with defective feathers, and in the end, genetically, they end up defective physically. One of my mutant baby birds, a physically defected baby birds that survived, I've given it to young Jan. She's 81, the lady that I care for. She cares for this little bird. He's got no wings. He was born actually with little stumps. He's a lovely yellow cockatiel, but he was born with the genetic beak and mouth disease. His feathers were falling out and they were curling backwards like they do with them, and they end up bald in the end. When we got him onto the calcium water, his feathers started to grow straight. And I put the whole aviary on the calcium water, and we haven't had any more of the beak and mouth disease develop, no more mutations or anything like that. So a plug for my calcium water. If you've got any pets and you are going to give them water, give them calcium water. It's like plasma water. It doesn't seem to bloat the cells with water. It works beautifully. I don't think we need to go into the details of how things work. We just need to have faith, try things and stick with them after a good amount of time once we've learnt that they work. But if you've got pets and they are drinking water, give them calcium water and fast them once a day, once a month at least. I put all my pets on a weekly fast. I daily fast everything, basically. One feed a day for all our carnivore animals. And I give them the calcium water. We've got our animal protocol coming up, so hopefully everyone's going to get into that.
Yeah.
Please buy the tinctures, the Star 4. Go the Star 10. The Star 4 is what we're suggesting for the animals, but I'd like people to consider, don't go cheap on your animals. If there's something that they need, get it for them. And supporting them with the tinctures is so important, and getting the kidney tea too. Getting that into them is so important. It's easy to give our animals the tinctures, and they do come around so much faster than us humans because we're bigger and we've got longer lifespans, so we heal just as long as we live. They heal much quicker, but we do need to support them. And for anyone that does pick up our animal protocol, please use the tinctures, use everything that we suggest, because it's important to support the system when it's dumping garbage.
Yeah, for dogs, you know, some people are growing up, they're feeding their dogs vegan or vegetarian. You know, there's talk out there versus the dogs that are omnivore versus carnivore. But you know, I've been looking at the wild dogs in Africa and dingoes and stuff. They pretty much carnivores.
Yeah.
In the wild.
Yeah.
They might, you know.
Something I've noticed is like you could have a bowl of fruit in front of the dingo and a bowl of cooked vegetables in front of the dingo, or some chicken meat, and he's going to go the chicken meat. His preference is meat, but we also have to consider in the wild they eat whole small animals. That means that small animal has a digestive system full of greens. Our domestic animals aren't getting that, so they're not getting our herbs. That's why I really want everyone to start their animals on tinctures and the kidney tea in the plasma pudding. If you can't get the plasma pudding going, at least get the tinctures in, because our animals aren't eating whole prey anymore and they're not getting their herbs. That's where they got their herbs. The small animals are usually herbivores that are eating the fruit and vegetables, which is where our carnivores would be getting their fruit and vegetable energies from. And when we cut them a piece of meat, we're not giving them the intestines, the contents of the intestines of the animal.
Are the dingoes go in packs, or are they loners?
They're usually a family pack.
Family.
Usually just a family pack. You'll have mum, dad, and the kids. That's how I've noticed them in the wild here. Loners are usually youngsters that haven't paired up. They'll pair up for life. Bronson fretted. I bonded him to a Great Dane that died of old age at 6. Isn't that so sad? That's old age for a Great Dane. But that's a Great Dane on sad diet. Their hearts don't handle it. He refused to eat for 2 weeks. I had to rush to town and buy a puppy. And when I brought a puppy home, he bonded immediately to the puppy. He had to feed the puppy. So, yeah, it was any way I could bring him out of it. Wild animals have got a distinct psychic connection to their companion. Mm-hmm. And this is one thing where people don't understand when they take a dog to a I can't think of the name of it, when they're getting rid of animals. An animal is bonded to you on a psychic state. He's not just physically attached to you. A lot of people become just physically attached to a creature and they don't understand they're emotionally, psychically attached to you. And they're, I'm trying to think of the right word here. Their loyalty to you is unbelievably, it's soul deep. And a dog's loyalty is soul deep. An animal's loyalty is soul deep. And you could see with Bronson when he lost Cindy, he lost his soul companion and he was quite happy to give up his physical life just to go and be with her. Without any issue, he was happy to give up his soul life. When we spend a lot of time with wild animals, we discover they live in the spirit world. We've put so much emphasis on the physical world that humanity has nearly lost the spiritual. Right? To put the spirit in a Bible and a church and have to deal with it by going through a pastor, a pope, or a particular person is so ridiculous. All we need to do is hook up like the animals have. It's just there. They'll show us.
Yeah. Amazing. So yeah, you've written out the prep protocol. We're just going through it and editing and stuff, and we'll release that soon so people can be able to take care of their pets a little, more in line with what they're supposed to be doing and keep them preventing their diseases, the illusionary diseases, because they get sick just like we do if we feed them the same things that man's created for them.
Well, it's environment on the internal, environment on the external, and an environment on the emotional. We can actually feed them really well and still have them in a diseased state by having them in an emotionally bad environment. We can have them in emotionally and dietary good environment and still have them in a poor physical environment and still have disease. We sort of need to holistically bring it together. They need a physical environment, which means if they are encaged, I don't like using cages in that word, but some animals need enclosures for their own safety, but that enclosure needs to be suitable for the animal. It needs to be comfortable. It needs to be its kingdom. It needs to be its happy place. It needs happy bedding, a happy environment, that sort of thing. It needs happy emotional environment. That is, the people around it need to be in emotionally good state. Because if you're coming at an animal with an attitude all the time, the animal's going to pick up that attitude. It's not going to be comfortable. And then they've got internal environment. And that's our diet. What goes with the animals is the same with us. If our home environment's not good, it's not good for us. If our emotional environment's not good, it's not good for us. And what we've been putting in here, the stuff we've put inside us, is just as wrong as the lifestyle that we've actually designed for ourselves. It makes sense why we're so out there in a state of disease.
Yeah. So maybe we'll go back up to your story. We went into the animals a bit, which is nice, so people have that. You did your 208 days. Any other issues you resolved? I think there's a few more things that I remember.
There was. What comes to mind at first was...
You were on meds.
Pardon? You
were on medication?
No, I don't take meds. I never did.
Oh, you never did?
No. But the one thing that comes to mind the most right at the moment, my neck was knocked out when my skull was put out, when I had the fractured head as a baby. So I hit the back of my head and I climbed onto a wardrobe, fallen off the wardrobe and hit the back of my head on the cot as I've fallen. Mum's picked me up and popped me back into bed. The next morning, she said I had a balloon from the top of my head to my shoulders. She said I didn't have a neck. It was just swollen, the whole thing. She said she went to put me into the bath and there was just no neck. It was just all swollen, the back of my head to my shoulders. She rushed me to hospital, so I'd spent some time in hospital with the fractured neck. And then there was an issue at the hospital with me climbing and crawling, climbing still. And I was hovering on the edge of the cot in the hospital. Mum said to the ladies at the cot, look, Mum was worried that I was going to fall out of the cot. And the sister turned around and said to Mum, well, don't you worry about her. We know how to take care of her, unlike you. They gave Mum a hard time. The next day, Mum come in to pick me up. She said I was harnessed to the bottom of the cot and I had a big bruise on the front of my forehead. So it looked like I'd come out again of the cot, hit my head again. So they've sent me home with, quick, get the kid out of here. She's gone and hurt herself after they told Mum that it was her fault. So I wasn't seen to again. And what had happened was I'd knocked the vertebrae out of my neck. So growing up, I didn't notice this. As in my early 30s, I started having a lot of issues with my neck, and the pain in here was unbelievable. So I went to a chiropractor and he's gone, your vertebrae's out. He's poked it in. Within a week, I'd gone back. It was out again. Luckily, I'd gone to an older chiropractor that had a bit of mature understanding what was going on. And he turned around and he said, he'd pointed out there was 5 places that my back had actually started going out. And he said, it was a bit like the neck was out and everywhere along my back would go out to try and rectify that the balance was out. So I was the most imbalanced Libran you'd ever meet. I was in crippled pain. When you have your neck, your shoulders, the middle of your back, your lower back and your hip out, you're in a lot of pain and you're not doing a heck of a lot. And I also discovered that from one of the vertebrae being out, all the organs below it have an issue dealing with things. So I had a lot of organ issue. The chiropractor had been straightening it, and the more he straightened it, the quicker it was loosening. And eventually he said to me, we've got to stop. We're going to make it worse. So he said, what's happened was the bones had changed shape because I was so young. About a month ago, I started having a lot of pain again in the back of my head and in the side of my neck and the vertebrae that it was sitting on. Was a lot of pressure. A lot of, I'm sort of commonly used to having migraines, but these weren't inside migraine pain. This was like pain in the bone. It was a different pain. I could actually feel my skull changing shape. I remember mentioning it to you. The whole side of this portion of my skull has actually moved out a bit. The vertebrae now must have changed shape to sit squarely because it doesn't slip out anymore. And at the end of the sensation where my head had come out like it was, like the shape here had changed, I woke up with this really deep indentation across the back of my head, and I could feel that was possibly where I'd hit my head on the bar as a child. The next night, had a bit of a pain, bit of an ache in the back of my head, and now I have a beautiful normal shaped skull. The back of it's got a normal shape, the plates on top. That's what I was saying to you with the migraine, Gino. I was doing a headstand in the corner of the floor here, trying to push up on this side and push down on this side. The pain was so intense on the bones that was the only way I could actually get the relief from them, was to sort of hook my hand in on this side and push. And I could feel all the way through the plates in my skull, the pressure. And after I pushed, I heard this crunch, and I felt quite dazed actually afterwards. I stood up and I felt different. I felt quite different. The headache started to drain quite quickly down the back, down through my back. And my head changed shape. I've now got a normal shaped head. The chiropractor had talked about possibly me seeing a cranial adjuster, which changes the plates on your head, may help with getting my skull to sit on the bone flat, because the plates were out and all the bones were out, and the fact that they'd been out since I was 1. So it shows you 49 years of being out, and they're straight, and they straightened on their own.
Back to blueprint.
And that's the go. I figure everything now is returning back to its original genetic plan. And genetically, I wasn't planned to have a bent neck and an out-of-shaped brain. My migraines have just settled completely now too. I don't actually have inside migraine pain anymore at all. So yeah, there's an awesome one. You can actually change your bone shape. The other part is I've got a compressed disc in my lower back. Used to suffer a tremendous amount. Like, as you can imagine, when a disc is compressed, it's compressed. It's jelly and it's squashed. And the weight of your whole body on it, swinging around in your waist, by the end of the day, it sort of hurts. Before the Master Fast, I used to wear a back brace every day. If I was in a car, I would have to wear the back brace. I could not actually sit before the first Master Fast. I actually couldn't sit down for long at all. I avoided sitting. If I had been doing this interview, I would be on my knees on a pillow.
Wow.
I couldn't sit on a chair. To sit at a chair at the table, I wouldn't sit. I'd go down on my knees so that I wouldn't bend my back. It was the only way I could comfortably get through the day. I would either stand, kneel, or lay down. There was no in between. There was no sitting. These days, I sit in front of the computer sometimes, like naughty me, for hours at end. I don't have an issue at all with the pain in my back. Actually, I don't call it pain. That compressed disc, I do know that it's still sensitive, because if the weather's really, really super cold, or if I've been doing a lot of exercise, I can feel there's a little area that is slightly inflamed. But as for the crippling pain that I used to have, that I couldn't sit, or I couldn't do anything, I couldn't lift anything, I couldn't garden, or that I would get into quivering pain in the end of the day because it was out. None of that happens anymore. So anyone with spine pain, like severe spine pain, being damage to the bones or damage to the discs, this Master Fasting, it's curing it. We're not masking it. We're not band-aiding it. It's curing it. I'm getting out in the garden. I've got an active physical life. I'm walking dogs every day. I've got to take the dingo for a walk all the time. There's, the physical damage that like physical material damage that my body had been through. Also, I have been violently abused and physically violently attacked in many times. So physically, I've been knocked up. One of the major issues that I've noticed, I had been hit in the face really, really hard, and it split a nerve here in my nose, but that nerve ran right the way through my mouth, in through my teeth, and up into the back of my mouth. And when the nerve was first split, the doctors told me that it doesn't heal. That was just it. I had to learn to live with it. What it felt like was that I'd been hit in the face with an axe. It fully felt like I'd been hit right there with an axe. The pain was excruciating, and it went right up through my tooth and up into the roof of my mouth. A cold breeze, cold stuff to my mouth, hot stuff, it all affected that nerve. It was super sensitive because it had been crushed. It's gone. I don't feel any difference at all there. At all, it feels the same on both sides of my nose. The theory goes by the doctors that nerve damage is incurable. Heads up, it's not. It's curable. I don't have any pain in my face at all anymore.
Yeah, the body can heal anything if you clean the environment properly. The other issue, your hair. You sent me a photo of all your hair falling out.
Yes.
You're
The massive big bag full of hair. I've got to show you. Just give me 2 secs.
Oh, you still have it. Yeah, you were sending me the photo. You're going, look what's going on. You were a little bit worried. You were a little bit worried.
I lost that much hair.
Don't worry about it.
So this is 108 days?
When you think
The first one.
that's a big bag of hair.
Master fast, right?
Pardon?
That's after your first master fast.
Well, the hair was falling out before the first master fast.
Okay.
It kept falling out during the first master fast, which made me very scared. I was, am I starving myself? Look, I'm skinny, I'm skinnier, and my hair's falling out. I'm going to go bald if I keep this up. During my second master fast is when the thickness of it really kicked in. But it stopped falling out about halfway between my first master fast and my second master fast. I noticed there was a lot of regrowth, a lot of fine stuff, and that's something we need to do. If you think you're losing all your hair, check the underneath, check right under here, and you'll notice there's a whole lot of fresh stuff coming. And what it is we're losing the dead stuff that's full of toxins. I'd say if you were to do a test on that, that'd be full of toxins, and what's grown back isn't. So yeah, I shed toxins and I had toxins in my hair. So yeah, a lot of hair fell out, but as you can see, a lot of hair has come back. There's a lot of hair there.
You're reborn.
Yeah, but it was scary losing the hair.
Yeah.
Women don't like thinking they're going to go bald.
Yeah, and some may not resolve it in 1 or 2 years. That's, this is where you need to understand that. It depends where you're at.
It didn't fix the first part.
Right.
Fast. When we consider how dirty our diet's been, and it's not just our diet, it's been going on for centuries. Like, as I say, my mother was not young. She was in her 30s when she had me. My father was dying of bowel cancer. I was born from two very sick and old people, considering, like genetically old people. These days, younger people are older genetically than we were in the past. The hair was still falling out at the end of the first master fast. And yeah, it didn't start growing back until about halfway between them. The second master fast, there's been no fall at all with the second time I did it.
Now you have complete faith that fasting will help bring the strength back to your hair, right?
Yeah. Anyone that wants to have if their hair is falling out and they're scared of it, don't worry about it, because it's just another issue. It's another part of us healing. There's a lot of old and diseased hair that seems to want to fall out. I have noticed, though, I've got a friend that's a raw food eater, and he does not fast at all. He to keep his weight, he eats all the time, and his hair is getting thinner and thinner and duller and duller. It's definitely in the dry fasting. This is from not eating. Yeah. It's not because I've changed to a raw diet or anything like that. It's from not eating. It's the fasting that's caused this to occur.
So overeating raw food is not necessarily a good thing for the body. Overeat. When I used to do raw food, we used to overeat. I used to overeat.
Yeah. That's something I've noticed with a few of the raw food eaters, is overeating seems to be an issue. And even with myself, when I went between the first master fast and the second master fast, when I overate, I seemed to digest less out of it than when I underate. I digested more out of it. It's optimum digestive volume we need to be looking for. The not more is better. This more is better is so not the go. Yeah, obviously there must be a point of less is not quite enough, but it's definitely not more is better, because my digestive system has an optimum volume. And if I put that little bit extra in, I find I'm processing it. I'm not processing it properly. I'm actually getting less out of more than I get out of the optimum volume. And that's something I think a lot of people need to get their mindset in. Just because we're eating raw and we're eating fruit doesn't mean we need enormous volumes. A nice little portion that suits your lifestyle and system seems to be, and finding out everyone's personal lifestyle and system support volume is something we individually have to work out, I feel.
Yeah. The subtraction is key. You got to remove these obstructions, and if you go to a point over what you need, you start building more obstructions. It doesn't matter how good the food is. That's
I'm evidence that that's true.
So the type of food, but also the amount of food that we eat. Two things: the type and the amount. Well, Michelle, you did an amazing job with the Master Fast Hybrid. You have mastered the Master Fast Hybrid. I would say more than anybody else. You're doing really.
Yes, I didn't want to stop healing. Once the healing started, with such deep-seated depression, my sadness was soul deep. I craved death that much that I actually had died a couple of years ago, probably about 5 years ago. I died of hypothermia. Doctors cannot work out why, but as I said, my organs would shut down. They didn't understand at times, but my system would shut down. And it was out of sadness that I would shut down. I'd split up from my lover at the time, and I was sort of at the time hoping that my lover had picked up another lover to take care of him so that I would be freed to leave. I really wasn't enjoying life. But I knew that he needed someone to be caring for him, or else he was going to lose his life quickly. And I'd met a woman that was loving him and wanting to care for him, and I left, and I'd sort of said goodbye to him and thought to myself, well, that's it. My ties are done. And that night I went to sleep, and, well, I didn't wake up dead, but I woke up with waiting in, how do you call it, without giving too much away. Can I say waiting at a bus stop, waiting like you were going to go to school, but you're the only person at the bus stop. And when death arrived, because he's an old friend of mine, I interacted a lot as a child with death at the hospital, because death would come when my first 8 years of life, I grew up in the hospital with my father while he was dying of cancer. So I got to know death. I knew that that's where I was going to meet death, at this bus stop. Death turned up and basically said to me, what are you doing here? And I've jokingly gone, well, you can't refuse me now. I'm already here. And it was a bit of a joke, because I had craved death all my life. Death wouldn't take me, even though I had life-threatening type situations. Like, a lot of people die of burst appendix, and mine had burst 3 times, and they didn't know until they'd taken them out. And this is this interplay that I had with death. I've cheated death. Well, not cheated. Death has not taken me through many of the things that I've been through that I should have died of. So anyway, me and death we've had a little joke with the fact that you can't send me back. I'm here now. He said, well, we better get you another place. And we've turned up in another home, and he's showed me through. And this home was very dirty, had some garbage, mega garbage bin fulls of garbage in it. But it was a beautiful home. Upstairs was gorgeous, but it had also, the upstairs had a cloud. Couldn't see the beautiful sky. The kitchen was gorgeous. There was a beautiful plant in the middle of the house that was growing in opposite to the way we're used to seeing things. It was rooted into the mind, and the flower plant was growing down into the kitchen, which is through here. But all the garbage was at the other end. And I sort of thought, well, yeah, I'm good at cleaning up. So, yeah, I'll take this house. This is a good one. I'll clean this one up. And then I woke up in my body again. And I've gone, you tricked me. I wanted a new life. I didn't want to have to do this one anymore. I'd had enough. I really had. It was painful living this world. So there you were. I'm back in the same old body, but I had been shown the internal garbage that needed cleaning up. How do I say that? What do I put there? And as you point out, Gino, the colon is where we're storing all our garbage. The garbage bins of the colon. It was sort of pretty well straight after the death experience that I started looking into what I could do to heal myself and to recover. That's when I started on the raw food, looking into changing my diet. I lived on dairy and meat. That was the only thing I could digest. When I tried to change over to fruit and vegetables, my stomach didn't digest. It didn't accept it. It took the first master fast and then hybrid fasting after that to actually get digestion to digest. And then it kicked in so quickly. Anyone looks up on my records, they'll see that it was just a matter of a couple of weeks. I went from 35 kilos, which was tiny little weak structure I was, to 40 kilos, and then it just went up and up without an issue.
Awesome.
So,
You're a living, walking miracle.
yeah. My craving for death stopped after my death experience, because I realised I'm only going to end up getting tricked back into this one. For some reason, we've got some plan to be running with this system. That I wasn't getting given a new one just yet.
Amazing.
But
Amazing.
yeah, physically, mentally, and emotionally, I was crushed, and they're no longer crushed. I'm still healing, and I personally think that I'll be on hybrid master fast forever. I can't see any reason why I should change it. I've now watched the animals; they're thriving on it. They're on a hybrid, like
Are you doing one meal a day, or?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep. I only do one meal a day. I have one eating, drinking bracket, and that's it. And it just doesn't. Because I've stuck with it from the old times, I don't have a habit to go to. So I haven't got a negative habit to fall back to.
Right.
I don't have to practice hybrid. It's just my way of life. If I was to change something, then I'd have to be practicing hybrid. To me, it's easier not to give myself any other habits or options.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. The more I look at it, the more, like, if we had lived a natural life around where there was fruit trees and all that sort of stuff, we'd be walking and traveling. We'd probably be finding nighttime refuge in caves or in thick scrub away from the cool of the evenings. We'd be walking to where the fruits are through the day. We wouldn't be actually living on the fruits. So I don't really know any animal that eats 24 hours a day, nor 12 hours a day. Grazing animals, yeah, they do, like a horse, a cow, a goat, they do pretty big time consumption. But for as much as they're consuming it, they also re-eat it. And they have, like, they re-chew everything 3 times. They have all those stomachs. Anything with a one stomach animal, they don't eat all that much. They pretty well, they travel to where their food is, they eat it, and then they go and they live their life. Life wasn't eating. Living life isn't consumption. And at this point in time, humans are the only animal that I can see that spends most of its waking life, like day life, in consumption. Most creatures actually have a life that's actually not eating or planning around eating or planning around making enough money to get enough food to eat, which seems to be most humans' life's plans.
Awesome.
Living the hybrid just seems natural.
Yeah. Simple. It's very simple.
Do you like eating or fasting, like dry fasting more, or master fast, like not hybrid, but full master fast? What do you like the most?
I love that you asked me that question. Because I had a fear of food, it was actually fun after the master fast to start eating again. The hybrid was fun because I started to create foods that I would eat and enjoy, and I got a new pleasure. I had never enjoyed actual food before. Fruit was never a pleasure, and fruit as a child was not a pleasure. My mother would buy fruit, make a fruit arrangement, and we weren't allowed to touch the fruit because it would spoil the arrangement. And then the fruit would go rotten and she'd do it again. So I didn't have fruit growing up. And yeah, food it was scary stuff. It was one of my anxieties. So with the hybrid, and I had to gain a bit of weight, I had to actually introduce foods into my world. I would put a big smile on my face and start cutting foods up, making myself something to eat. But I deliberately put the grin on my face to start off with, because I used to go, as soon as I started to prepare food, I'd start this sad drain sensation would go through me with the fears and the anxieties and everything. So I'd charge myself up with, I'm going to do this and I'm going to enjoy it. And I really loved it. I've fallen in love with eating fruit and fresh vegetables, all the beautiful stuff that I had never been able to consume before. So I do enjoy the eating side, the hybrid. These days I love the fruits. It's wintertime here and we're having a hard time finding good fruit. So I'm having a bit more of the warm cooked vegetable type dishes and cooked fruit. I'm starting to move from the cooked vegetables to cooked fruit when I'm wanting a warm dish. It was just I think a cultural thing that we go cooked vegetables, and I'm pulling the cooked fruit thing into my diet now. But I love the fast. It simplifies my world where there's no preparation, there's no thought, and also the weight of digestion's not there. That's good. And it opens you up to be able to just be active and do all the time. My most favorite is the dry times. I really love being dry. I don't understand that, but I'd say that somewhere in the core soul of me, it must know how good it's coming, how I'm healing when I'm in the dry, that my body craves to be in the dry. I don't get dry mouth. Well, I do get dry mouth. I've got a dry mouth at the moment. I'm in the middle of my dry at the moment. I like being dry mouth. It's one of those things that's like, oh, great, I'm dry, I'm getting there. Rather than when I used to look at it, in the beginning it was, oh, I'm so dry. Every time you have a dry mouth, it was one of those things we never felt before we started to dry fast. We didn't get dry mouth. We put something in it. We never got hungry. We put something in it. These days I actually get hungry, where in the past I would never get hungry. My tummy never would say, hey, you could feed me, which was
awesome. Vladimir shared that video today of an experiment somebody did with the rats. On the experimental and the control. The control, they fed them and they had water available. And the experimental, they had very limited water. The control died off, aged very quickly and died off. And the experimental lived 47 months, I believe, with very limited water.
Which is longer.
That's much longer time.
Which is very much longer than a rat would live. So, you know, when people are saying, oh, you can't live without water, yeah, you can't live miserably. You can thrive without water and enjoy life. You know, the marketing of water has been one of the biggest scams for humanity.
Yeah. And look, we absorb water so much. Like I notice when I'm having a shower, I can feel my body drinking. These days, I feel my body drinking when I'm having a shower.
Yeah. It's true.
If we've got a lot of humidity in the air here and it's getting really moldy, I notice even through my dry fasting days, I'm still urinating. And I'm drawing water through the atmosphere.
Yeah, you're actually creating a hydration. You're creating.
Yes, we do get moisture through our skin and through our breathing. If we weren't set up in in houses so much, we'd be getting much more atmospheric moisture in our system.
Mhm.
But on top of that, you look at some of the the desert Aboriginals, and they have very minimal water. And one of the things I've noticed, their skin is beautiful. The desert Aboriginals, and like they're sucking the juice off of a plant. They're not getting a drink. They're sucking a root off of a plant to get a drop of water. They're getting the moisture from the atmosphere in the morning hours, and that's what's giving them their daily juice, basically.
How long is your daily, weekly, and monthly? I know your weekly is 48 hours, right? With the hybrid. How long is your daily drive?
A daily drive. I try and push them about 15 hours or so. I think 12 is not an effort. It's too easy to do 12. If I feel like I need to gain a little weight, I'll have it 15. If I'm just not worrying about my weight and I'm just running on, look, let's just get this cleaning up done, I'll have a smaller eating window and a bigger dry window. But I like to push my long dry fasts during the solstices, the equinoxes, and between Pisces and Aries, astrological influences, just to amplify my efforts. I bring everything in to amplify it up. So yeah, I should post on our board more of when I do my longer drives, because I try and pick times when I feel that it's going to amplify it through the astrological influences. I've done a little bit of astrology type things, but it's more my own personal experience. I don't have a head full of written books information. I feel, honestly, anybody that knows a lot of stuff needs to have a knowing through their own experience, not know because somebody's told them or because they've read somewhere. So my astrological type influences that I've incorporated, it's because I've witnessed the power in them. They do magnify our efforts.
For sure. But anytime you dry is a good time.
Yeah, it's true. It would be nice to dry all the time.
I'm wondering.
I mean, it's working for you, just to let you know. I mean, you're doing amazing. You're doing really, really well. Your master fast, your healing, post-master fast. I mean, it's just wonderful.
Picture perfect.
Picture perfect.
Yeah, I've still got quite some time to go. As you say, it could take up to 9 years.
Who cares?
And we've centuries and centuries and centuries of doing the wrong thing. We have to accept it's going to take a while to clean it up. But with the fact that I had my death experience and that I was shown that basically the home is beautiful, it just needs cleaning up. We all only need to clean our system, just keep doing what we're doing, and we will come out clean.
Yeah. I'm wondering, does anybody have any questions for Michelle? Everybody's really quiet today. No, there's nothing on the chat. Where? Nobody? Everybody's in awe. Is this really happening? Yeah, it's amazing.
True, this happens. I'm planning on doing another master fast, doing the 108 again. I'm at this point, be it for the next 9 years, I'll just keep doing my Christmas to Easter master fasting and my hybrid in between. It's the routine that I feel is, I don't really want to break it up into two smaller lots at this point. I feel that pushing that 108 days is well worth it. And I do reckon we can do it once a year. It's nothing for my body to have recovered each time.
Yeah.
It's made a big difference having a physical outlook, picking up the weights, and a state of mind. When I thought that I was going to be too skinny and too weak, I was going to be too skinny and too weak. When I thought to myself, I can strengthen myself and I can grow muscles doing this, I did. I strengthened myself and I grew muscles. It wasn't like I was saying I'm going to be able to fly, which I do believe one day in the future I will be able to. It was as simple as changing my state of mind to there's no reason why my muscles can't develop even though I'm not eating food. Exactly. I was still nutritious, like the grape juice is nutritious. I was adding maple syrup, and remember I concentrate my grape juice. I'll put a 2-litre bottle of grape juice in the slow cooker and let it cook down to a thick syrup, and then I'll supplement my juice with the syrup. So I saw myself as getting plenty of calories. There was no reason why I couldn't grow muscle. All I had to do was change my state of mind, which was my belief system that I could gain muscle while I was fasting, and I did. So my suggestion is go and buy yourself a small set of weights when you do fast and keep your strength up. If we lay around with the belief that we're not eating, that we're going to get weaker, that we're going to get smaller, we will. We will get weaker. We will get smaller. We will turn into frail bone structures if that's what we believe and if that's the direction we allow ourselves to go in. It's not through eating that makes the physical body strong. It's through actual doing that actually makes the body strong.
Sometimes it's hard for us to change our belief with the first master fast. I remember on the first master fast, I was doing some yoga, but then I lost so much weight and got criticized by my family here. And I stopped doing yoga because I got scared, kind of. I don't want to lose any more weight, but I want to do 108. I lost weight. I lost a lot of weight. Well, I went down to 40 kilos, and I'm 163 centimeters, so I'm not sure if we're similar in height. But my second master fast, I said, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself to do yoga every day, and that's power yoga, so it's not easy. It's like lots of body weight, right? Every single day, 1 hour and a half. Well, 1 hour to 1 hour and a half, usually 1 hour and a half of yoga and rebounding for 20 minutes and 108 squats every day. And I did that for 75 days straight. And I said, I'm not going to stop until I feel weak. I'm not going to stop the master fast unless I'm weak, physically weak. If I'm physically weak, then it's a good sign that, slow down. I didn't. I actually stopped the master fast for another reason. Definitely not because of my physical body. I was so strong. I was doing at some point 3 days a week of dry fasting, which is pushing it. But while working out on the dry fast, I mean, it's possible. Everything is possible.
Yeah. I think a bit of the issue that happens to us is our biggest fears is the things that are going to manifest. And as soon as we start fearing being weak, we become weak. We fear our little body. And something that I discovered was my father was extremely powerful and strong, even though he was a very, very skinny man. So being really skinny hasn't got anything to do with your strength, I understood. But the weakness of the lack of eating, the healing reactions can very quickly get a state of mind where we're depleted and we're depleting, and our fears is what manifests. And if we fear the fact that we're not got any power, we've not got any strength, that we're fading away, it's exactly what we see.
Yeah. And especially the society around us.
That was the other point, yeah. It is so hard when my first fast, when everybody was saying, look at you, you're getting so skinny, you're gonna, and as soon as they imprinted me with their fears, I'm feeling them. And it was nearly impossible to disconnect from that. That's another reason why I love the fact that we've got our Masterfast page, and when our family rejects what we're doing, we can get support from our Masterfast family. Our home environment and support is pretty important, and when we haven't got that, their fears do override on us. And I think, in the beginning, everyone's going hard at you with the fact that you're losing too much weight. What you're doing isn't healthy. It's not good for you. You're hurting yourself. And you stick to it with faith, but your mind is torn and your body it's healing, but it's also doing what your biggest fear is, because it's what your consciousness is on. I think that's the point. We have to consider, what are we consciously spending most of our conscious time on? If we're consciously considering we're skinny, we're weak, the family's saying it, we're seeing it, healing reactions are making us feel it. If we believe it, it is the case, but it doesn't have to be the case. They're seeing something that they're not understanding. We know we're doing the right thing. We also know that you've got to lose to gain. You lose all the garbage so that you can gain solid, strong, healthy cells. The old rotten dead ones have got to go. That's a loss. You're going to have a breakdown to have a rebuild. You can't rebuild on the old structure. We have to set our mind to not seeing what everybody else sees, and seeing the ones that have already gotten through the Masterfast and redeveloped and rebuilt and have shown that they can stay in form and still do the Masterfast. It's our state of mind. And we are challenged by our family, our environment, our beliefs, and what's happening to us at the time. Some healing reactions are crippling. They'll knock you for almost a week or two. At times I've been down for almost 2 weeks. It's like, oh my God, I want this over with. You can feel very weak and very depleted, but they're actually the times that you're getting the most healing. And if we get our mind into this mindset that we are weak, we're depleted, we're falling apart, this is not good, it doesn't work well for what is happening, which is you're actually doing such deep-seated healing that the whole system's having to deal with the amount of rubbish we're unlocking from places.
I'm glad.
Reactions get intense, but you always get through them. There's as to date so far, I have not heard of anyone dying on the Masterfast. Hasn't happened. And for as crook as we all feel,
my opinion, I tell people, if I die, it's because sometimes I get criticized for the weight when I fast. I tell them, guys, if I die, it's because of the food, not because of not because of the fast. If I die, it's because the way I break my fast. It's not because of the fast. The fast is
if someone breaks their fast bad, that can be horrendous. That's the biggest danger. It's the breaking of the fast.
And that's what we're
Gino's evidence to us that we can fast without actually dying. Look at how far you've fasted. How many days have you gone without food and water altogether, Gino?
Myself?
Yeah.
Many.
Yes.
My longest was 13 not too long ago, and before that was 12. But I've done many 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s.
And before even
if you can make 13 days, it's not the dry that kills you.
No, Gabriel's did 48 days in the summer last year. Not consecutive, but in a 2-month period, he did 48 days dry. Like in Italy, I did 26 days dry out of 42 days in the Masterfast.
This is why I'm pointing out the Masterfast. You can't die on that. Breaking it, yes, or if there was something wrong with you severely beforehand. But I honestly feel that if you're on death's bed and you jump straight into the Masterfast, I honestly believe you can pull yourself out. With what I have experienced now over this last 2 years of fasting with the Master Fast, I honestly believe we could pull people out of their deathbed with 2 weeks left to live if they're prepared to immediately fast and dry themselves right out. They would reverse their death.
Yeah, people have. You mentioned calories. I don't go to that. It's really not calories. What you're all talking about, it's the emotion and intent behind it is the driving force, not the calories. Calories.
Yeah, we've been educated that way.
Mainstream fiction thing that I don't believe in.
It's the material side of it.
Yeah, it's the intent and
the energy is the soul side.
That's the whole driving force of what Master Fast is. I keep saying to people, it's not the matter stuff. The matter stuff is just there because we need to use that for our subconscious because we're stuck in that belief system. It's the intent and emotions the driving force behind Master Fast.
I'll quote one of my favorite quotes. Matter is a persistent illusion. It's very persistent, but it is an illusion.
We're the whole planet's changing and the awareness is growing so fast. We're going to see amazing changes in the next several years of what's happening with humanity. We're moving into the realm of light and peace and correct conduct and all that stuff and balance. And this is the only way we can, there's no other option anymore. There is no other. We can't continue killing ourselves. There's no other. Peace is the only way, the only option.
Well, I see us doing this Master Fast. Everyone that jumps on and does this is we're influencing the masses. You've got like what they call a herd immunization influence. You can affect 1 or 2 animals in a herd, and the whole herd is affected by that 1 or 2 animals' effect. As a group of humans, there's a bunch of us now that are understanding. We've come aware. We're seeing the truth, and we're bringing the truth back to the people. Whether people do or don't ever even hear the truth, they're going to become more aware of it, and their practices are going to change. There's enough influence. There's enough research to show that this herd influence does affect, and they've now found that actually you've got one island, they can teach a bunch of monkeys on one island how to use a tool, and the monkeys on other islands that have never seen it start to use the tool because a monkey that's started to use it. And that's that's the spiritual side of things.
Yep.
The consciousness. And I see us bringing this to the masses, even if they never ever go on Facebook or ever see the protocol. I do believe, I know that we're affecting them in a positive way. They're changing their practices, their behaviors because we are.
It's like if you think of the internet, the World Wide Web, it's all connected. It's the same thing with consciousness of humanity, the animals, the plant kingdom, all creation throughout the universe for perpetuity. It's all connected in that web.
It's all the great one.
That's called the 100th monkey syndrome, what you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that we're working in the right direction and everyone's following.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, just by the growth that's happening in our private club, it's just amazing, way beyond whatever.
Yeah,
it
is.
We want to be, keep the faith, always keep the faith. That's the best thing we can say, right?
Yeah.
Keep the faith.
I can remember when I first developed the calcium water, I was so thrilled that I had developed something that I knew was so powerful at bringing people into the ability to connect up with soul, that soul-spirit connection. If we can reconnect people to their inner soul, they will guide themselves then up the right path. And then from there, from developing my calcium water and finding Master Fast, the two of them work together just so beautifully for me.
Yeah.
It just hooked me up to the spirit and then started the cleaning. The
calcium water, like when you mentioned to me right away, I had some of that limestone sitting around for years and never was using it. And I started making some. It definitely changes the state of water completely. It's not the same.
Yep, it's not water anymore. Fourth dimension.
We're not drinking it. We're
No,
making
I don't drink it.
We're making enemas, doing enemas. We're making, we're rinsing our mouths with it. Yeah, I even started giving it to the dog. This is Ranus.
Yeah, lovely. I'll show you mine.
You know, that's the limestone on the bottom. That's all you need to do. And you just fill it up with a good clean source of water, drinking water, and you let it sit. 24 hours, it's ready. It'll cloud up and then it'll settle. But you can drink it if it's still cloudy. You can still drink it. Yeah.
There's mine.
Yeah, but it's
got a little bit of dust in it.
The whole texture is completely changed. Everything.
So you
notice there's a blue.
Yeah. A blue
reflection to it.
Yeah.
It totally changes. It's light. It reflects blue light. It no longer has anything to reflect any other coloured light. But yeah, that's the calcium water. When you let it stand long enough, it goes crystal clear.
Yeah, it does.
I have a massive water tank, so it's easy for me. But yeah.
This is calcium carbonate.
My suggestion. Pardon?
Calcium carbonate?
Yep, just limestone in water. That's all you do to do it. And my suggestion is to just rinse mouth with. If you tip your head forward with your chin down, you don't swallow it, you just rinse it through your mouth, and it's unlike water, it doesn't give you the dry mouth. I find even when I'm dry fasting, I can clear my mouth with a quick rinse on that, and it doesn't affect it at all. There's no absorption.
Yeah, exactly. Like you do that with water, plain water, on a dry, you're going to dry your mouth right out.
Yeah.
When people say, I make the claim that I believe water dehydrates you. After 5, 6, 7 day dry fast, rinse your mouth out with regular water and tell me if it hydrates you or if it dries you out more. And I can assure you, it dries you out. It
makes my tongue stick to the roof of my mouth if I use normal water.
Yeah, this water doesn't do that because it's changed its state. I believe it's in a plasmatic state. It's very interesting when I did that. But that's one simple test. When people say, show me the science that water dehydrates you, I don't need science. I'm the lab, Victoria, right here. And I got this that can see common sense.
When we consider we're fruit eaters, how can we be drinking water as well?
You don't get
really fruit eaters.
You don't get
unless we're drinking dry fruit. Eating dry fruit.
Well,
honestly, can't see the need for.
The issue is, even though people have been eating fruit for years, they have not cleaned the obstructions, and that's the issue. This is the understanding that needs to come up. It's the instructions that are causing all the issues. They can eat all the fruit they want. They can't solve their issues.
One of the things I've noticed, I don't get thirsty until after I've eaten. When I'm on my hybrid, I'll actually start eating before I start drinking.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be thirsty to break the fast. I'll just go, oh, well, I better get dinner in. So I'll do my dinner, and it won't be until the end of my dinner that I'm actually thinking, oh, I'll pour myself a grape juice or an orange juice now. I actually find that it's not until the function of eating starts that I get thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the overconsumption of water is the overconsumption of foods. And like processed foods, the salts, like how much more do we need to add to it to point out how bad it is?
It's becomes like an automatic thing that the body's reaching to dilute the poison because, you know, we're eating all these things that we're not supposed to eat, and we're trying to flush that out. And it's a vicious cycle that just spins you into more dehydration, in my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
That's the toxicity that the body, you know, the body's trying to dilute by making you thirsty. And then the other thing is the belief system, because everybody around you is saying water is good for you, right? So you believe it. So these two things, I believe, are what making us drink, and of course marketing as well is a big thing, you know, in the media.
Yeah, so many people, if you look, everybody's a bit inflamed. They're just, you know, puffed up.
See, this second year now that we've been on the master fast, it's the first time that my feet have never been swollen in my entire life.
And you have drank the least water.
Pardon?
And you have drank the least water.
Yeah.
It's amazing what can happen when you stay focused and you keep that little bit of faith and a little bit of trust. Just stay focused on those goals and just keep that intent and emotion in that, you know, in correct conduct. You can literally move mountains.
Yes. Oh, we can. We can. We do have a lot of challenges to do on with what we've been told and what we believe. I think we need to check anything that we've got set in the belief side is, do we believe because someone's told us, or do we believe because it's proven itself to us? We really need to bring a lot of our beliefs out of our belief system and put them into possibles, because there's a lot of stuff we've believed because we were told it, because our parents believed it, and people that we looked up to believed it, and our so-called doctors and scientists and professionals that we were told to trust believes it. Mm-hmm. And we really have to look at the fact that the world wouldn't be in the state that it's in now, with the state of suffering of the human race, if we really knew what they were if they knew what they were talking about. So we've got to check those beliefs. They're not really right. And our belief system is something that can really hold us back, even with the fast. We need to be dropping the beliefs, drop all beliefs, until you've got them set in there as a knowing. And that way it's not going to hold you back from healing. I can see a few times with me, I held myself back with the lack of belief. Well, not the lack of belief, but the belief of what I'd been educated.
All of us, not only you, everybody.
We've been taught so much lies. And then we've never come to a point in time when we were able to heal ourselves like this. So it was easy to believe it as a truth. It was easy to believe the scientists and doctors as that neurological damage was incurable, spinal damage is incurable. It was easy to believe that because through the last couple of 100 years, it has been. And they scientifically proved to us that it was impossible. Even the things that we are pretty sure is true could be put aside to the possibly isn't true. I don't think that we should have much in our belief system at all, especially at the beginning of the master fast. You want to clear that belief system right out, dump it like one of the garbage bins that got filled full of a lot of garbage. Might be some good stuff in there, but dump it all out. You really don't need any belief. I honestly think come at it with being like a child, where you don't know what will occur, and anything that does is exciting. Believe it or not, I get excited when I suffer. As soon as I get some sort of healing reaction, a twitch of pain, I go, oh, good, we're getting to something more. When I'm cruising 2 or 3 weeks and I haven't felt anything, I'm starting to think to myself, I'm plateauing. I'm not pushing hard enough. I don't want to do this slow time. I want to get this over and done with. I want to get on with life. Yeah. I've had 50 years of suffering and misery, And I see myself, the capabilities of us as a human, honestly, 250 years, we could live it comfortably without suffering. But we have to clean a lot of garbage up first.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah.
And I see a long and very happy, contented, joyful life ahead of me. I want to hurry up and get there. I don't want this cleaning up bit to drag on for too long. So I don't like plateaus. I like it when I push myself hard enough to get into a healing reaction when I'm suffering. And yeah, a little bit of love and a bit of suffering and a little bit more love and a bit of suffering. I come through, and then I just, yeah, I call myself the Cheshire Cat these days, because I think I've been through so much. And honestly, I suppose when you've gone through such a hard time, you realise how good the good times are. Man, they're good. They hurt good. They feel that good. I don't know if I can laugh until my ribs hurt. And these days I grin until my face aches. My life is just so awesome. It wouldn't be perceived to be awesome to a lot of people. They would probably see a lot of the aspects of my life as being not optimum, but every aspect of it I see as perfect for bringing me round to being who I am and where I want to end up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Nothing more to add to this. I mean, it's you have summarized it. It's beautiful. You're enjoying the journey, and that's the whole point.
I'm loving it.
Tomorrow, yeah.
To be able to not crave to die, to not crave to not be alive is wonderful. And I think, like, Gina, I have to thank you so much. I love you both so much. And I love everybody, all of you on the Master Fast. But I have to thank you for helping put the protocol up and helping me get out of craving to die. I'd never had a pleasurable moment in life that I desired to recreate. I was existing only because I knew that the death of me would hurt my children so much. I felt like a vampire. I felt like I couldn't kill myself and I couldn't die. I was trapped. And now I'm no longer trapped. I'm alive and I love it. And it's because of you, Gina. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's this is I'm just a messenger, and if people would grasp what we're sharing, they can see the magic. People choose to remain blind, they will remain blind. And that's okay. That's their choice.
I have tried hard to push some of my family members into the direction that we're going in. And I've discovered that if it's not their time to be aware, it's not. There was no one there pushing me, and I come across what I came across because I was searching, because I was looking.
How did you find?
If we force our family members to change, I think if they change, it's for us, not for themselves, and it doesn't work well for them. Like I'm wrapped at the moment. I've got my family members here now fasting with me. It took a year. They can now see the difference, and now they want that for themselves. In the beginning, they didn't want it. They thought I was crazy, I was mad. There was talk of having me committed to a mental asylum because I wouldn't eat. Yeah, things turn around. Have faith in yourself and accept that some people won't, no matter how much you push them. And sometimes it's better not to push, just to show. Just let them see what you're doing yourself. Push yourself and let them see the results. That's what brings them around. Your family and your loved ones come around when they see you've changed. Mm-hmm. And the biggest change they've seen in me is my state of mind. I'm no longer a terrified, anxious, sickly little creature anymore.
Wow. Amazing.
I've come out of, I was named, well, I was called Michelle because I lived in my shell, and I've come out of my shell. I've evolved out of it. Now I live on the outside of the shell. I don't need a shell to live in anymore.
Australia would be a nice place to visit.
It is lovely. I think I'm in a very good spot. We have 2 weeks of frost and 2 weeks of heat waves. So I'd say it's probably one of the mildest times and mildest places in the environment of the planet. And we're supposed to be the lucky place too. There's no major fault lines or volcanoes here in Australia. So if the extreme happens, come to Australia. We should be safe.
Big island floating in the middle of nowhere.
It is, yeah. A very big island floating away from any of the actual fault lines. I was looking at them the other day, the fault lines are getting very active again.
Yeah.
Now, this is something we have to accept. Everything changes, so does our planet.
Mm-hmm.
And we better catch up to it. We need to be on par with it.
Yep. So nobody's got any questions. I'm surprised. They're just all blown away. They got their...
I'm sure they will have after they listen to the repeat.
Yeah. So what are we've gone over 2.5 hours. You have anything else you want to share? Any last stuff? Or we can call it a night and you can get on with your day?
No, not really right at the moment.
You have shared so much.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's all right. Yeah, we can do another one another time down the track.
I've been waiting for this for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
For you to share. I says when she's
I was very shy.
That's an amazing, amazing story. Really, I mean, you have transformed in every way.
Where, yeah, look, the changes have been miraculous, and I wouldn't have changed a thing. Everything's been perfect. Yeah, as I was saying in there a little earlier, I was afraid, I was terrified to go onto the psyllium husks, and I stayed on my the doctor's fibre for the beginning of the first fast because I was afraid that there may have been starch. I had avoided all grains in the psyllium husk. But when I did eventually go onto the psyllium husk, I discovered it was so good. I love it. And on the hybrid, I still take my psyllium husks every day. Whether I've now been making that flatbread with the psyllium husks or the pudding, but I do that every day. Keep the bulk of the bowel movement, I find. And the other thing I think too, also with the hybrid, stick with doing some enemas. Just because we're going doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt giving it a good flush. I'll do an enema before and after my weekly dry fast, but I'll often throw 1 or 2 in through the week if I'm feeling like it.
No big deal.
If I'm going through a healing reaction, I'll have one. So just because when we're not on the actual master fast and we're on hybrid, go the enemas. Keep that colon washing. Keep washing it. Keep cleaning it out. It's to me, I think it's an important.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because life, we start holding and start stagnating. It's living in this environment, society. It's always good to keep that moving. It doesn't weaken your bowels. It only strengthens you.
Something I found, because a lot of my issues were emotional, I emotionally retain. So I found I'll be feeling awkward and I'll give myself an enema and I'll have an emotional release with the physical release. To me, that's a healing experience because I'm walking that emotional dis-ease out the door. Mm-hmm. I'm understanding that that's part of it. I'm understanding it. I'm retaining it. It's a retention. And I figure we must be retaining a lot of our emotions in our colon. And giving myself an enema releases the emotion in its physical lock, which then also lets me emotionally let it out. It's amazing the emotional physical releases we get sometimes with the enema. And they're emotional releases that I don't experience again. So to me, that's a really important aspect. Just because we're pooing doesn't mean not to give it an enema, because those enemas do more than just move it through. It washes the bowels and it unlocks tented up emotions that are in there.
Yeah, I shared that many times. You got emotion, do an enema. Suzanne saying, amazing story. Thanks for sharing. And one more thing, you give animals enemas as well.
Yes, animal enema. You use a tea type thing or the calcium water for a carnivore, because they have a very alkaline colon, and if you use the vinegar or lemon, you'll burn them. They don't have an acid colon, they have an alkaline colon. But you just use kidney tea, and you proceed like you would yourself. Be very gentle, be very confident. If the animal panics and carries on, don't be affected by the behaviour of the animal. Just continue to do what you need to do. If the animal is in excruciating pain, accept that it may actually be in a little bit, may show that it's in more pain whilst you're doing the enema. But as soon as the enema is released, you'll notice overall the whole situation with the animal is recovered. It relaxes. The pain or discomfort or anguish that it was in before has gone. If your animal needs multiple enemas, they get used to it. A lot of the times it's only a one-off thing because they've constipated and they're packed up. They haven't been able to go.
Wow.
The whole idea is to make sure you've got your animal in a position where he can't get away. I find with small creatures, actually, it's good if you can get a big man's boot. You can put a cat inside the shoe and do the shoe up. So you've just got the back legs, the tail, and the anus. That way, you've contained the creature. You can give it an enema without it scratching the life out of you.
Wow.
If you've got a dog, obviously, you're going to have to tie it up. Most animals don't enjoy the process, but they can die of constipation. An animal will die of constipation. Human food should never be fed to them. And in a state of disease, at times, they do get constipated. So an enema is its way out. Also, if you've got a paralysed animal, I've had tick bites with a few of them here. You don't lose an animal if you give them enemas. If you don't, they will end up dying of toxic shock.
Wow.
It's just so much easier. You give it a quick enema each day while it's still down. And when they're down with tick, actually, it's very easy to give them enemas because you're not having an animal the rest of you back. But you can give a cat to a horse an enema. It all depends on the size, hose and bucket. Horse enemas are a little different. You follow a horse enema by putting your whole hand in the horse's rear end up to your shoulder. Wow. And you pump your hand in and out to release the blockage. You don't need to do that with a small animal. You can just give it a slight massage. The worst with a horse, if a horse has sand colic, which is a tummy full of sand, you turn the horse upside down. You get somebody to hold his legs while he's flat on his back, and you've got the horse legs in the air, and you get the flat of a shovel, and you slap him on the belly with the flat of the shovel, and then let him stand back up. Fill him with water again, and you'll find all the sand will have lifted off of his belly, and you can actually drag the sand out.
Oh.
Another thing, if a horse has gone down with, they call it founder, and it's basically a horse with consumption. They've got an overfat, their blood pressure got that high, the foot starts to press through the bottom of their bone, presses through the bottom of their feet. They're crippled and they're normally put down afterwards because it kills them. You can save him immediately by giving an enema and taking a gallon of blood out of him. But I wouldn't go trying to describe how to bleed a horse through the internet. That you really need someone to show you. But if ever you see somebody or something losing a load of blood, don't fear. That's actually a benefit. It usually takes us with about 24 hours to make up anything that we lose.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're giving an animal an enema and you see blood, don't panic. It doesn't matter.
I don't know. You never got kicked by a horse? Given an enema?
No. No. Well, when you're taught to work with horses, you're taught how not to get kicked. It's just you stand that close to them, they can't kick you.
Mm.
So it's the whole thing with a horse. You keep one hand on the horse when you're working him, and you stand real close. He can't actually kick you. He push you away, but he can't hit you with his boot, with his foot.
Amazing.
But, if anyone ever needs to give an animal an enema, I'm quite happy to give them instructions. Maybe we'll do an instruction video in the future.
Yeah. All right, Michelle. We'll
leave it on the enemas.
Sorry?
Yeah. We'll leave it on the enemas. We'll leave it at the other end.
Yeah, there's nothing like an enema, that's for sure.
Oh, cleaning out the garbage bins is what we need to do.
You know, even the animals are full of obstructions. The food is what causes their issues, and especially domesticated animals.
And you can overfeed the right amount of food to animals too, and which shows if we can overfeed our animals even the right foods, we can overdo the right foods.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things the ferrets have taught me is that volume is unbelievably important for quality of life. They can be fed an enormous volume of food, of the normal foods that they would eat, and they become fat, lazy, and lose the hair off their tails.
Wow.
You bring them back to having only one meal a day, they're happy, they're active, and they're full, thick-coated. I don't like fat animals. I don't think any animal should be a fat animal. And when the ferrets, I went away for a week, and it only took a week with Shane overfeeding them all day long, that they got, when I got home, they were fat, lazy, they wouldn't come out to me, and all hair fell out of their tails in 1 week. It took me a couple of weeks to get them back to normal again, but to bring them back to normal, I just had to bring them to the fasting and a lot less food. Less is best.
Unbelievable.
Comes back to less is best.
All right, Michelle, we thank you so much for sharing your story. So many people that you're going to inspire watching this video, and keep plugging away, keep that plasma love flowing.
Well, Gino and Rena, thank you very much for all your work and your end. If you hadn't been the nucleus, well, you are the nucleus of this family, and I'm so pleased to be a part of a member of the family. And
awesome to have you on board.
It's part of my world now. I can't ever see me not being part of this. I love sharing with everyone, like helping everyone as much as what I've got out of it. And to me, if we can alleviate pain and suffering and create a quality of life, is awesome.
Yeah, you're doing a great job on yourself and helping others as well, and the animals as well. I mean, you're following your passion. You're doing amazing on yourself, on others. We love you.
All right.
I love you too.
Let's call it a night, even though I feel like going all night, but it's long.
Yes, I could talk. I could keep talking, but I think what we should do is just make another one for another time.
Sure.
We have a lot we can talk about.
Of course. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Michelle,
Thank you,
again
everyone.
for sharing your wisdom and your wonderful, amazing, miraculous story. And we'll see you on the board.
Yeah.
Ciao.
See ya.